Welcome to Jersey Matters. State Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg is in the thick of a lot of controversial issues and an investigation in Trenton, and she's been gracious enough to allow us to come to her office in Teaneck and talk about them. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
We are recording this on the day after the second hearing with members of the high-ranking members of the Murphy administration who allowed an accused rapist to work in the administration and then continue to work in the administration, even though the one he's accused of raping also worked in the administration. Since it's the day after, I want to get your thoughts on what you heard yesterday.
First of all, if I had to boil down 5 hours of testimony, I would want to know how somebody who got fired twice was still working 7 or 8 months later.
Was he fired, though? It seemed like such a passive firing. He might not have understood.
According to Mr. Camerano's own testimony, he did not think that Al Alvarez misunderstood what he was called into Pete Camerano's office and told on March 26th, I think. That happened on March 26th. We now fast forward to, I think it was June, when the then director of the School Development Authority, Charlie McKenna, was called and told to separate Mr. Alvarez from his appointment. I think that was June. And again, Mr. Alvarez continued working until a day or two before the Wall Street Journal article.
I think a lot of people, especially the way you just phrased that, don't understand how that could happen because they put themselves in their place of work. If you're fired, you don't come back to work anymore. And there's a lot of paperwork that has to go along with that where they tell you you've been fired, you've been terminated. Did any of that happen?
Well, apparently not. Not from the testimony we've gotten so far, but we're not through people who might have played a role in that. Nobody seemed to say to Mr. Alvarez, you are, quote, fired. Please empty out your desk and be gone by 5 o'clock or whatever parameters it was. Please separate yourself. But I go back to Mr. Camerano's testimony, paraphrasing. He said, when you are called into the chief of staff's office in the governor's office and told to separate yourself, you know what that means, said Mr. Camerano. Well, apparently Mr. Alvarez didn't.
And you're not going to be talking to Mr. Alvarez?
Well, we issued an invitation. He, through his attorney, declined.
What about the governor? Will you be talking to the governor? Will you call him?
That is a decision that we have not made as a committee. We will see what road this leads to. First of all, that's a pretty important step when an investigation committee calls the chief executive, and that would take some deliberations on the part of the committee with our attorneys and on the willingness of the governor to come forth and talk to us.
It certainly seems like that's where this is leading, though. I mean,
well,
because there was an email that he wrote back. Don't you need to know exactly what he meant when he said, hang in there, we're on it?
Well, there's that other gap in knowledge, which we will get to. When Katie Brennan sent the email to Governor Murphy and the First Lady, Tammy Murphy, and said, I have an issue, sensitive issue, and I'd like to meet with you. The governor answered her and said something like, we know who you are, we're on it, hang in there. Within a very short length of time, an attorney for the campaign called Katie Brennan back, and according to Ms. Brennan's testimony, she didn't even have a chance to tell this attorney what the sensitive issue was. He already knew.
You seem to be making a case that the governor knew.
Well, somebody told the attorney. I don't know that it was the governor or Pete Camerano or
the two.
Matt Platkin, but somebody told this attorney.
Did the Hudson County Prosecutors Office handle this properly?
I can't really say I know the complete answer to that. One of my questions yesterday was to Justin Brass, who was among the first people who saw Katie Brennan. After this incident, she called him. He came to her apartment. He said he believed her. He testified to that. He found her creditable. And I asked him if the Hudson County Prosecutors Office had called him ever, and he said no. And the fact that Justin Braz was never even called for questioning leads me to believe that we have some more questions.
You know, you're so calm and collected about this, as you were yesterday, and you were listening, and I watched some of it online, and I heard reports how good you were yesterday. But you're a survivor yourself. You hear testimony of a woman that did everything you're supposed to do after she says she was raped, and yet here you are in front of you asking for justice a year and a half later after the alleged rape. How do you not get angry?
I do. In fact, I sometimes surprise myself if I see a TV repeat, because I don't sound as angry as I feel inside. So I'm sort of surprised. I'm always worried that it's going to come out, really being as angry as I feel, but apparently somehow it doesn't. So I'll attribute it to years of marriage, motherhood, grandmotherhood, learning to not toss furniture across the room.
I guess it's an unfair question because, yes, you should be angry now, and you say you are. But I guess the question is, why didn't anybody in the Murphy administration get angry?
That is such a good question, and that's what I hope. I don't know why we'd have to keep teaching these lessons over and over and over again. This Al Alvarez, whether he was guilty, whatever the extenuating circumstances could be, are around this incident, he was treated with enormous, we think it's a good idea for you to leave. Well, why did they want him to leave? That would be my question. Why did you want him to leave? I'm assuming because he's an accused rapist. So if he's an accused rapist, then the next thing would be fire him. I am so tired of hearing, these women are so courageous. They are so wonderful. They are so brave. Isn't it wonderful they've come forward? They are remarkable. We should admire them. We just don't believe them.
Well, I'm way over in time for the
Yeah,
first
I'm
segment,
sorry.
and no, it's me. I could talk
Yeah.
about this all day with you, but there's some other issues I want to talk with you about, and we'll get to marijuana, the minimum wage, consolidation, and a racing track in your building.
Yeah.
When Jersey Matters continues.
Thanks.